welcome to Routes Through Pokemon Adventures. I'm your host, Shea Locke.
I'm Ruby.
And together we are journeying across the video game series, anime series, and manga Pokemon Adventures. This week it is all the anime, though. Last week we bridged some of the gap. 2 weeks ago we made it to Cinnabar Island, did the 7th gym. So we have a few episodes of Route Through Pokemon Adventures to get us to Cinnabar Island in the anime and manga. And so this episode is going to have a lot of interesting in-between stuff. Some of it even might even connect a little bit to the manga last week. It definitely connects to the games from a while ago. But one of the most interesting things about this week is that with the anime, even though Gold and Silver was not released and won't be released for quite a while yet, we have our first, well, technically second Pokemon from the Johto region appearing in the anime. The first one was Ho-Oh in a brief glimpse in the first episode, but
Did they even know they were making Gold and Silver when they made Ho-Oh?
I think they were probably already in the beginning stages of it, like making plans and stuff. Maybe it wasn't even named, I don't even know, but they probably were already doing art and creating ideas, and yeah, I don't know the whole process, but and obviously they were well on their way by this point in the anime, which is, we're going to be covering episodes, according to some list, 45 through 52. It gets a little weird with some of the episodes, and we'll get into that as well. This week we will be launching off with the Song of Jigglypuff, though. But before we get into the episode proper, just catching up on where we're at in our own Pokemon journeys, outside of our scheduled programming. So, at the time of this recording, we're just about to jump into a new season of Pokemon Go. I forget what the season we are in was called, but that's where they started introducing some of the Paldean Pokemon in Pokemon Go. And that's also where the big quest for the Master Ball was.
Yeah.
And then they put on sale a Master Ball quest too that some people were supposedly complaining that it was too expensive, but it's like, okay. And overall it actually seems a little bit easier to accomplish, but I really enjoyed the challenge of doing the timed one.
Yeah.
But this new season is going to be Timeless Travels, and so it has a little bit of time travel element to it because it's bringing back some Pokemon Legends Arceus stuff, or Arceus, because that's what the plot of that game is too, right? In the beginning, you are sent back in time.
I don't know exactly. I didn't play it.
Yeah, but you've seen some of us start the game, and it starts off with you in that black screen with Arceus talking to you. And so, but that means we're going to have some more Pokemon from the Hisui region. I'm really disappointed because there's going to be 3-star raids coming in just a few days, but it's going to be while I'm at work, so I won't be able to go out and do them. And I could do a 3-star raid, but it's for the Hisui and Samurott, because the final evolutions of the starter Pokemons are different than their normal final evolutions.
Huh.
In Arceus.
Interesting.
Because in Arceus, the 3 starters are just a different starter from different generations. Like, you have Rowlet, which is from Generation 7. You have Cyndaquil, which is Generation 2. And Oshawott, which is, I don't know, 6, maybe 4. I don't remember. I don't remember where Oshawott shows up. But their final evolutions are all different looking and have a different typing than they have in the games they originally came from.
Also, when you go to work, you do raids all the time. So what do you mean you can't do any?
Oh, I often do raids after work on my way home. But the schedule for these particular raids are while I'm at work. It's a 3-hour window. Yeah. So, a little disappointed, but that's okay. And then, I don't know what we last talked about with, Scarlet and Violet, but with you and your sister and brother buying yourself a new Switch Lite, I purchased another copy of Pokemon Violet, because that seems to be the popular one in the household.
Definitely.
And so, you and I have helped, or have joined your little brother on his journey in Violet a little bit, because he's way behind us. But we got to play around and catch a couple things and have some fun while he was doing his thing, and he was excited to have us there with him.
And we found a trainer that we didn't battle forever ago.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that was nice. Yeah, it was way back at, the first gym we did, which was the
Small.
Bug Gym. Yes, where you have to roll the big old olive thing, small olive or whatever. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, I don't don't know if I brought this up before either, but maybe I have. We do have a Facebook group now. So if you want to look for routes through Pokemon, we're there. Just posting some updates and where we're at there. And I also have joined Twitter, or X as it's now called. Posting. Yeah, it used to be called Twitter, but now it's X.
Why?
Because the guy that bought it decided he wanted to call it X now.
Why?
I don't know.
He's weird.
He's a very weird guy. He's also the one behind SpaceX or whatever. Elon Musk. You've heard Mom talk about him before.
SpaceX, it's good, right?
I don't honestly see, this may be a controversial opinion, but I don't see a lot of value in exploring space.
It's cool.
Oh, I think it's cool. Definitely think it's cool, but I don't think the things that people hope to accomplish with it will ever be accomplished by it.
Oh, I
don't have a lot of faith in us actually living on Mars someday.
Oh, no. Unless they can create an atmosphere.
I mean, I could be they could just create dome cities or something, I don't know. So you'd have oxygen within the city.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm good here on Earth.
Right? I mean, maybe, but I just, again, whatever. And some of my favorite movies involve having things like living on Mars and whatever. I love a movie called Total Recall, the older one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that involves people living on Mars and stuff, and it's a pretty cool movie. That's not the main plot of it, but it's cool. But yeah, so yeah, I'm on X as well, so I can post things there, updates on what we're watching, things like that. So if you ever want to follow us there, listeners, you can. Otherwise, yeah, I think that covers pretty much what's been going on in our Pokemon world at the moment, besides our truck through the anime.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started with the Song of Jigglypuff, episode 45. And that number would change if you're looking at only the U.S. released episodes, because we covered some banned episodes as well. And so the U.S. releases, this would be 43 or something. I don't remember. So, first of all, Psyduck has been my favorite character that's been involved when he showed up. But now we have Jigglypuff. And I'm a big fan of Jigglypuff.
They're two in the same.
Jigglypuff is a very amusing, recurring character that we will see more of than just the episodes that we cover here. And I'm here for it. Yeah. So we start with Ash and everybody ending up in a city called Neon City. And apparently nobody sleeps. And so they're all a bunch of jerks because they're all tired and cranky. Even Officer Jenny is crabby.
Well, she has to keep everyone from fighting.
Yeah, but she's tired too because she also doesn't sleep.
Well, if she does, the city will burn to the ground.
And then Ash and them do try to get some sleep themselves at a hotel or something like that, but they seem to still be kind of tired or something. I think I think they said they didn't get very good sleep or something.
Well, Neon City is known for its great festivities going on 24/7, so loudness, bright lights.
Yep, hard to sleep through. But then they leave the city and they end up in the outskirts there, where they come upon a Jigglypuff that won't sing.
Yeah.
And so they tried really hard to help Jigglypuff. And so finally, they convince Jigglypuff to sing.
They find a berry. Don't they find a berry that makes it so she can sing?
Is that what happens?
Yeah, because her throat was sore or something like that.
Oh, was her throat sore? I missed that somehow.
That's what happened, I think.
But also, Team Rocket learn about Jigglypuff's ability to sing people to sleep because of the Pokedex entry or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they want to bring the Jigglypuff to Neon City so they can put everyone there to sleep so they can rob the city. But then they realize they can just record Jigglypuff's song. They don't actually need Jigglypuff itself.
That's what their plan is.
So they set up their sound equipment and have a mic out there.
But they have it playing over the radio, I think, don't they? That they have it set up to?
No, they have their headphones on for the recording.
So they can hear her song.
So they can hear the recording, yeah. And make sure it's catching the sound that they needed to catch.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
So then everyone falls asleep when Jigglypuff sings, and that includes Team Rocket, because of course they're listening to it.
Doesn't Jigglypuff dig in Ash's backpack to find Mark?
Yep, I was getting there. Yes. So yeah, after that, Jigglypuff gets mad and digs in Ash, and I didn't know. I guess if it was Ash's backpack, but it was Ash and
pretty sure it was
gear, and finds a marker. Taking off the top, Jiggly draws over everyone's face. And then we hear Team Rocket snoozing behind the bushes. And so Jigglypuff, jumps over there and slaps them a bunch, trying to wake them up first. But when they don't, also draws on their faces. And it's really funny because once Team Rocket wakes up, they well, we got the recording then. but they only hear their snoring.
Yeah.
So once everybody's awake, they try to help Jigglypuff some more. And so they have their Pokemon listen to the song instead. And they take out, quote-unquote, all their Pokemon. But they don't actually take out all their Pokemon.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Pokemon fall asleep. And Jigglypuff gets mad. But then Misty thinks that maybe Psyduck can listen and not fall asleep since he's so vacant in the head. And it seems to work. Jigglypuff sings. Psyduck has his normal expression on his face. But then Jiggly starts to go, does its angry puff again. And they're like, well, what's wrong now? Psyduck stayed awake. And then bumps into him and he falls right over because he fell asleep with his eyes open. But then they come up with their best. But then they come up with the best plan yet. They'll take Jiggly to Neon City, where no one sleeps at all. So of course they'll stay awake. Team Rocket is super excited to hear Ash and them plan this thing because that was their plan. Is to get
they get
Jigglypuff.
good earplugs.
They get good earplugs, but they also help because Ash and them, when they get to the city, they're like, we need to find a place where they can get the sound out to everybody, but nobody can help them. And then this big old truck pulls up with the best disguises Team Rocket has ever had. Yeah. And James actually dressed as a guy and Jessie in female attire with good accents, and like they didn't necessarily look like themselves or sound like themselves. Yeah, and their hair was hidden for once. So for whatever reason, they did a good job with disguises this time. I mean, Ash and them fall for it every time anyway, but whatever. Maybe that's why they get so lazy, because Ash and them just fall for it anyway, so they're like, we don't have to try that hard. But anyway, yeah, they're like rockers with like British accents or something. And they have a van or truck full of sound equipment and speakers and all that stuff. And so they set them all up, and then Team Rocket goes and hides in like a phone booth or something. I don't even remember.
Behind the building or something
I don't remember. And stick these cartoonishly huge earplugs in all their ears. Like, this will save us. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. And so, when Jigglypuff sings, it puts everyone to sleep. The whole city. Ash and everybody. Team Rocket. Everybody falls asleep. And of course, Jigglypuff gets mad and starts drawing on the entire city's face. And then is gone. They don't know where Jigglypuff went. And when Ash and them get up and everybody else gets up, everybody's a lot nicer.
That one really mean guy wouldn't apologize to people.
Yeah, there's a lot of apologies going around. And then there's even some speculation from Ash and them that the song might not just put people to sleep, but make them nicer. But it seems like they were just cranky because they were tired. Except that also Team Rocket, who probably get more sleep than Neon City, were also happy even when they were leaving the city.
And they already fell asleep to her song.
Yeah, that too. So maybe there's some truth to it, but maybe it's just that they get such good sleep. Who knows? But yeah, it's funny because Team Rocket, they're like, we failed, but somehow we're not upset about it this time. And yeah, they wonder where Jiggly might have gone. And Misty really wanted to catch Jigglypuff the whole time and hopes to meet it again someday. Which is hilarious because Misty does not continue to wish that.
Why don't they just catch it?
I don't even know if that happened in the episodes we watched this time, but we've seen some episodes before where they're not thrilled to find Jigglypuff.
Why don't they just, like, as soon as they see it, Ash uses his Pikachu and just shocks her or something, and then they catch her?
Well, it's not as funny then.
That's fair.
So, then the next episode, episode 46, Attack of the Prehistoric Pokemon.
Ooh, ba, ba, ba.
So Jiggly returns and keeps mistaking weird rock formations and stuff as stages for her performance. And she carries what looks like a microphone now. And every time Jiggly gets ready to sing throughout this episode, something keeps coming up and interrupting the process. Meanwhile, the gang stumble into like a fossil rush, like the gold rush of the 1800s or whatever. Was it 1800s? I don't know. Anyway, back in the cowboyish days.
Wait, it caused jeans to be invented, actually.
The gold rush? Oh yeah, that's right. Your brother was talking about that, Flame.
Was he the one who said that?
He was talking a lot about jeans lately, but maybe you also were learning about it.
We did the same thing.
Okay.
I did first.
Well, I believe you. I've heard a ton from it from Flame.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently fossils have been found in this valley, and so everybody's trying to find them. And Gary is also there, dressed like Indiana Jones, which is not the only kind of Indiana Jones-ish reference in this episode. it's really funny because he's the first one to find a fossil, and then the guy that's like inspecting him is like, "Oh yeah, this is fossilized Pokemon manure." He was disgusted by that, and it was funny.
Yeah.
And his cheerleading squad was also very disgusted. But meanwhile, Team Rocket has a plan to blast a big ol' hole and collect all the fossils themselves. And so they have a huge thing of dynamite and a ridiculously long fuse. There's no reason to have it, whatever. Anyway.
Well, that they could light it and run away.
Sure. Still
Well,
seems
maybe
excessively long, especially since
walk away.
I think it even goes back and forth a little bit when it could have just been a straight path. Because they go up in, like, the ramps, basically. I don't know.
You could have just been, like, kind of thrown over the edge and then gone a little ways that way.
Exactly.
Instead of going bloop
Exactly.
on the path.
But again,
go on the path.
it's for the humor of the cartoonishness of everything. So once they light it, Ash and Squirtle try to put it out, and Squirtle can't seem to hit it. And Team Rocket is also running after them, trying to stop them, and they all end up tumbling into a giant ball, like a boulder, like an Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And they just kind of roll on, and they all get like in this like heap at the very end near the dynamite, and it's getting close. And so Pikachu lashes out real quick to try to help, and instead is the one who pretty much causes the explosion.
It was because either way, it's fine.
It was just funny. He's like, because when he does it, he's like, Pikachu! And he does his like thunderbolt or whatever, but then like the expression on Pikachu's face when he realizes what he's done as it's about to explode is hilarious. Like he's like, I've made a huge mistake. And I was just so amused by his expression. So then Team Rocket, Ash, and at least his Charmeleon all fall down into the hole.
Yeah.
Because I think Pikachu stays on top somehow. I don't remember.
Matter.
Yeah, so they all fall down into this big old hole that gets clogged with a bunch of boulders, which is impressive because it's not like a bunch of boulders stacked on top. The boulders lodge into the hole itself, which seems very precarious, especially when everybody on top starts trying to dig into it. I'm like, you do that, all those boulders are going to fall, you're going to fall, and you're probably going to crush people underneath. Whatever. It was just weird. Anyway, but once they're down there, they find out that they're surrounded by a bunch of Pokemon with bloodshot eyes. They are the fossil Pokemon, Kabuto, Kabutops, Ammonite, Amistar, which we've gotten our Kabuto and Ammonite now on Cinnabar Island, using the fossil thing. Same with our Amber, the old Amber.
Aerodactyl.
Yeah, for Aerodactyl. Which Aerodactyl also appears in this episode.
But not yet.
Yeah. So, it turns out these fossil Pokemon weren't extinct, they were hibernating, and the bomb woke them up. So they're cranky now. Kind of like the Neon City people.
Yeah, I think the writers were kind of tired when they were writing these.
Maybe they were. But then, like, I forget exactly what happens between the swarm of Pokemon there and the rest of the gang. But before anything can really blow up, they kind of scatter. The Pokemon do. And they're like, what? And that's because Aerodactyl shows up. And they're all scared of Aerodactyl. Yeah. And Charmeleon gets knocked around a little bit by Aerodactyl, and so he tries to fight it. Mm-hmm. Did Ash try to have Charmeleon fight the other Pokemon first? But he wouldn't?
Maybe.
Because I think there was a moment where like Charmeleon just kind of lays there. He's like, no, I'm not going to fight for you.
Yeah.
But then he tries to fight the Aerodactyl because the Aerodactyl hit him. Uh-huh. So then the Aerodactyl eventually grabs Ash and flies off out of the hole with him. Mm-hmm. And Charmeleon, I think, is trying to fight him as well. I don't remember how he gets out. Team Rocket doesn't get out, though, do they?
No.
Maybe he was...
Charmeleon was grabbing onto the leg or something.
Yes.
And then he let go of the leg.
Yeah, after they got out of the thing. That's right. But then Aerodactyl lands on like this big old plateau thing with Ash and starts making faces at Charmeleon because Charmeleon can't get up to him. And it makes Charmeleon mad. Mm-hmm. And so Charmeleon glows and evolves into Charizard, who's a very popular Pokemon.
Which doesn't make sense that he would evolve into Charizard because smaller Pokemon evolve faster into their medium size, and then it takes even longer for them to evolve into their big form. Charmander's like takes a long time, and he finally evolved. Then Charmeleon, bam, Charizard.
Yeah, a lot of things in the show don't make sense with that evolution stuff, but it's okay. So he evolves and flies after the Aerodactyl again. And Ash is like, oh, Charizard does like me. He's trying to save me. And then Charizard like breathes fire that like completely obliterates Ash too. He's like, or maybe not. But the way this all gets resolved isn't Charizard. It's Jigglypuff and Misty. Misty gets Jigglypuff to sing to help everyone out.
Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff, Jiggly.
So Jigglypuff does sing, puts everybody to sleep. I think she tried to get Jigglypuff to sing before the Charizard incident too, but then it didn't happen, and then Charizard turned into Charizard and did his thing, and then eventually Jigglypuff sang and put everybody to sleep. Everyone. All the people chasing the fossils, Jenny who was there, Ash, everybody fell asleep. So when everybody wakes up, Officer Jenny tells them in a Men in Black kind of way that, it was just a dream. You did not see an Aerodactyl. There is no Aerodactyl. And of course, they never saw the other fossil Pokemon either. And convinces everybody that it didn't happen. You remember Men in Black?
Nope.
So it's a movie. It was a comic book first, I guess. But it's a movie where they deal with aliens all the time. But it's a secret organization where they wear black suits and stuff. They're the Men in Black. But they have those little silver devices that they flash in people's faces, and then they give them like a different memory of what happened.
Huh.
Maybe you haven't seen it. I've watched it with one of you kids, at least. Maybe it was just your brother.
I'm going to say I remember, but I don't know for sure if I do.
At the end, it turns out like the main evil bad guy of the one, he takes over some farmer's body. Like he eats him and shifts his whole bug-like body into the...
I might remember parts of it. I don't remember the whole movie, though.
Back to the episode. So they all fall asleep. She convinces him his dream. And when Ash wakes up, he has an egg that he had found, apparently, with all these weird colorful symbols on it. They're like, where'd you get that? And he's like, I found it in the fossil area.
Yep.
And of course, everybody, Brock wants it. But Ash is like, it's mine.
Brock takes it from him.
He does take it.
It is Ash's egg. He deserves...
He steals it to help out, quote unquote.
Later episode, he does give it back.
Yep.
I'm very annoyed about how...
Yeah, it is all very annoying. But anyway. Meanwhile, Team Rocket is still trapped underground with all the fossil Pokemon now sleeping, which includes Aerodactyl, and they're very nervous to do anything because they want to wake them up and die. And then, I think it's Meowth, but somebody sneezes, and they start to wake up.
Yeah.
We just hear it. It blacks out when we hear the Pokemon wake up. And then, that's pretty much that episode. But it's significant because we get the egg, which is where our second Johto Pokemon will come from. And it's also significant because now we have Charizard, which is a companion of Ash for a long time in the show.
For a long time?
Probably till the end. I don't know. I haven't watched all the episodes, but he's around for a long time at least. It's one of the main Pokemon of Ash's. Pikachu's the main, but Charizard's up there.
Yeah.
All right. So, episode 47, a Chansey Operation. You remember this one?
Uh-huh.
So this starts out with Pikachu being a dork and swallowing one of those little apple berry things whole and choking on it. And they want to go to a Pokemon Center to help him because they don't know what happened to him, Ash and them. But the Pokemon Center's too far away. And so they go to a regular human hospital, which is apparently run by a single doctor, even though it looks like a big old hospital.
Who's a jerk, by the way.
Who is a creep and a jerk. This guy weirds me out, okay? So immediately he tries to flirt with Misty. And I'm like, dude, Misty's a child.
Yeah.
At least it sounds like he's flirting to me. It doesn't sound like he's just being like, oh, you're a sweet little girl.
No, he's not doing that. He is definitely.
The only argument against it is that she is the only one he doesn't ask out. He does ask two of the other women out in the episode, but he never asks Misty out.
But he does things for her.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. But you could make an argument that maybe he was just being just super nice to her because she's just a nice, sweet girl. I wouldn't make that argument. I'm just saying maybe you could. Yeah, he creeped me out. But
and he's mean.
He's just not a very good doctor person. He might be good at being a doctor, but he's not. He might be skilled in doctoral arts, but he's not a good doctor.
Yeah.
Because he's lazy and doesn't care.
He's like, I'm on my break. Back off.
So he doesn't want to help at first, but then Misty's there, so he's like, oh, okay, I'll help. And so then he starts checking out Misty, not as in hey, but trying to see what was wrong with her. And she's like, it's not me, it's the Pikachu. He's like, well, I mean, I can't, I can't do anything. But they convince him to help because the Poké Center's too far away. And
he does just fine, so
he lodges his arm down Pikachu's throat and pulls up the apple, and it's like, well, this is what it... And then he yells at Ash for, letting his Pikachu do that, and it's like, I didn't let him do that, I didn't... What? Anyway.
Sorry for letting him eat.
But then after that was done, he's like, well, I'm going on my break. So he goes on his break, and the phone's ringing, and they're, aren't you going to get it? He's like, no, I'm on my break. It's like, it could be an emergency. I'm on my break, I don't care. So they answer it. And of course, the Joy on the other line, or on the other end, is like, oh, where's the doctor? I thought I called the hospital. It's like, well, he's on his break. She's like, well, this is an emergency. There was a big old car accident, which involved Team Rocket, as we start seeing scenes from it, and Pokemon being carted away on, like, stretchers and stuff into ambulances. And Meowth is crying because his charm is gone on his forehead. It's missing. And Joy's like, there's a lot of injured Pokemon, and I cannot take care of all of them in the Poke Center. There's just too many, so I need you guys to, like, I need the doctor over there to take care of the chunk of them. And, of course, Ash and them are able to convince the doctor to do so. And
the doctor asks Joy out over
That's right. So he asked her out for some pizza or something. He's like, oh, Joy, I like Joy. So that he did start talking on there. And he's like, well, after this, you want to go get some pizza? And she's like, we're not talking about this now. Help the Pokemon, then we can talk. It's like, all right. and during that scene, that's when Brock has his great line. He's like, I don't like this guy. He's like me.
Except a little less of creep.
Well, it's creepier for the guy to be doing it, especially with like Misty and stuff, because Brock is also younger. So
that's true.
I think he's older than Ash and Misty, but he's not like an adult.
Yeah.
And he hasn't flirted with Misty, so he's usually flirting with women older than him, probably. So, so Team Rocket and their Pokemon are some of the ones that get taken to the new place, and Ash and them are trying to help the doctor out with all the things. And there's a point where they're dealing with the Arbok, and I think that's the one they're gonna sedate.
They sedate it, and they're gonna sedate a different one then.
Oh, okay. So they successfully sedate Arbok, but then they're gonna sedate another Pokemon. Dodrio. Oh yeah, we get another with the heads all tangled up. Sorry. I think they even referenced the different emotions of the heads, or maybe we just talked about it.
No, they referenced.
Did they? Because I remember they do it back in the Flame Pokemon.
I know, but they definitely reference it here too.
Okay. Yeah, but then it gets knocked into the doctor instead, so he falls asleep.
Yep.
So then it's just up to everybody else. But once Arbok and Weezing are cured.
Well, there's one funny point when they're trying to cure Meowth, and the Chansey. And Meowth's like, I want my charm. The Chansey brings, like, all these different
Chanseys are
things.
nurses, too. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then Chansey brings all these different things. And he's like, then he starts getting sassy, and the Chansey's like, Chansey!
Oh, I forgot about that. That's a weird part of the episode, too, because it's just random things. So for us, it's like, this makes no sense. It's like there's a communication problem. Like, it doesn't understand. Which Meowth can always talk to Pokemon, so they usually understand, right? And so it's just random things that it's trying to give him instead of a charm.
Well, like, to use his charm.
Right. But apparently, I believe, in the Japanese version, they're all the things that it offers have words that sound similar to whatever the word is for the charm as well.
Oh.
I think that's that scene. Where it's just... So, like, it's actually a play on words for Japan, but for us, that doesn't translate because they're different pictures, which we have very different words for that don't sound similar, right?
It's still funny.
Oh no, it's hilarious. It's just an interesting translation issue.
And this Chansey gets mad at Meowth because Meowth is starting to get mad.
Oh, another part that I thought was really funny before the doctor falls asleep, when Jesse and James first show up and Ash is helping with the thing, and James is like, "The twerp's an MD." He's so dumb. I just died at that line. I thought it was so funny. Because he's like thinking, you know what an MD is, right?
Medical doctor?
Yeah. So he's just like, what? When did this happen? It's like, it didn't happen. He's not an MD, you doofus.
The doctor also hits on Jessie.
Yes. And also asks her out for pizza, I believe. And of course, Jessie always likes being flirted with because she thinks she's the most beautiful woman in the world. She's very vain. But anyway, once the Team Rocket Pokemon are all recovered, and I think probably Meowth too, which it turned out his charm... Or no, that's at the end, isn't it?
That's at the very end.
That is at the end. But Weezing and Arbok are cured, so then Team Rocket isn't going to help out anymore, and they're planning on capturing the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because they're Team Rocket. But then there's in the final like confrontation, the Doctor wakes up and actually has like a cool moment where he like faces off with them, doesn't he?
Well, they have these stretchers for people that are Team Rocket designed or whatever, that hold the people down, the Ash and Co., and then they send Arbok and Weezing to attack, but the Chanseys, like, hold out their arms to stop them.
Okay.
And they just sit there, the Arbok and Weezing. They don't do anything.
Hmm.
And that's when the doctor wakes up. I don't remember when he explained if it was after or before he had his jacket or whatever.
Full of, like, needles or something?
Needles, knives, and all
Yeah, all the
stuff.
doctor supplies.
Yeah.
And
he
like, surgical
explains
tools
how
and stuff.
Arbok and Weezing know that they were helped by these people. They're not going to hurt them.
That's right. Yeah. I knew he had some kind of, like, line, and he was like, haha, big presentation, but I couldn't remember what it was at all. I always forget the end of Team Rocket. Like, anytime they get defeated, I'm like, for some reason, my brain just, like, glosses over it, and this was, like, the defeat of Team Rocket at this point, and I'm just like,
Well,
I don't know.
yeah. The doctors or whatever help them out, and then they go, you can have these back, and fling them at them so that they go make a hole in the wall and bye-bye Team Rocket.
Oh, Team Rocket ran through the wall like old cartoon style, where their shapes are in the wall, or?
No, the stretchers got him, and there was just big holes.
Oh, gotcha. The stretchers knocked them through the wall. Is that what you're saying?
Kinda, I think.
Okay.
Then Team Rocket's blasted off again.
Of
We
course.
see him at the end, but...
Yeah, so, speaking of the end, because there's not really much that happens after that. Oh, one other weird thing is the doctor's name was Proctor. Dr. Proctor.
Yeah.
It rhymed. So, like, Ash and them they move on with their stuff. But with Team Rocket, we catch up with them, and what happened?
They landed on their heads, which knocks the charm out of Meowth's head.
Because it was not lost off of his head, it was pushed into his head.
How? I'd be like, my head hurts so bad.
Well, I gotta imagine even if being taken off would probably hurt, because it's like a part of his body.
Yes, it's true.
Alright, so then, after that episode, we go into episode 48, Holy Matrimony. It starts out with Ash and Co., but quickly the episode seems to shift into Team Rocket being the main characters, which I thought was interesting.
Is it this one?
Yes, it is this one. Whatever this one means.
Is it the James one?
Yes, it's James. The gang arrives into a town. They find a picture of a missing boy that looks a lot like a young James, and they mention that. And so apparently the butler guy or whatever has super sharp hearing, because he pulls up. He's like, "Do you know this boy?" After they say that, I'm like, "Well, he looks like a guy we know named James." And so he takes them into the limousine and drives off with them
For a long time.
Yeah, well, right after they leave, though, Team Rocket pops out because they were also nearby, and they're like, "Look at the thing," and Jesse's like, "It does look like James."
Yeah.
James says he looks pathetic, and Meowth is like, "Well, that's what she said." They're so mean. But James seems like really depressed, and like he tries to like brush it off like he doesn't care about this, whatever. And he just seems down. But Jesse and Meowth decide to drag him along to investigate what's going on. Meanwhile, Ash and them go through some gates in the limousine, and like they're driving along
For a half hour after that.
Yeah, like I can't remember exactly how long it was, but yeah, they're
Then
like,
they arrive at this big
Yes.
mansion.
Yep, it's huge, and they even comment on it. It's like, it's so big. There's got to be so many rooms in it. Blah 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 blah. And when they get out and keep commenting, the butler's like, "That's not the mansion. How dare you? That's the doghouse for Master James's Growly." And then it pans over, and we see a big old building that dwarfs the other one. It's like, what in the world? So yeah,
These people have problems.
they have lots and lots of money.
But why spend it on all that?
Because they have so much that they probably still have tons of money. That doesn't matter. Like, to them, it's probably like tossing a couple pennies.
So toss a couple pennies to the poor.
Well, they're not necessarily nice people. But anyway, while they're there, it's explained that, and Team Rocket is listening from inside the house during a lot of this too, but, like an event or something. But it's explained that James is supposed to inherit the estate because his parents have died. So that's why they're trying hard to find him. And he explains that James's parents had been wanting to find him for so long, but eventually they just couldn't take his disappearance any longer, and they passed away. It killed them. And
he can only inherit the estate if he marries somebody within 24 hours.
His fiancée within 24 hours. Yep, that's the catch. That's the big drive here. So then Ash and them head outside, and Ash wants to help James, but the gang doesn't even know where to find him. They're like, we don't even know where to like start looking for James, right?
He just comes to us.
Right, which they mention again later in the episode. But then Team Rocket, having gotten into a fight in the vent, because they're like, James, you need to do this. That will be filthy rich. This would be fantastic. And James is like, no. And they fight, and they end up falling outside from wherever they were in the building. And right in front of Ash and everybody, who's like, I don't know how we'll find James. Ta-da! And James tries to get away, but Jesse and Meowth are trying to force him in. James also explains, eventually, he's like, it talks about the story about this poor young boy and his Growly, and how he runs away from home. Oh, he dropped, so that he failed out of the Pokemon Tech Academy, which we learned back in an episode where we visited the Pokemon Tech Academy, that Jesse and James both failed out of that.
Yep.
But the way the story goes, it sounds like maybe he didn't know Jesse there. I don't know, though. But anyway, he talks about how they wandered and it was cold, and eventually he collapsed, and the Growlithe was there howling, and James was never seen again. Basically suggesting that James died. Little James, this kid. And then they're like, but James, you're right here. He's like, oh, I can't remember anything. I got amnesia, whatever. He just starts acting weird about it.
Yeah.
So, like, most of the story was probably true, except for, like, the death part. So, after a little back and forth there, this is the point where Ash and everybody kind of take a back seat to the story. They're not really involved, except, like, peering around corners and stuff like Team Rocket usually is doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really enjoyed this episode. It's ridiculous and it's hilarious to me. I don't know. But this is where Jesse and Meowth decide to dress in, like, black clothing, like a lot of people do for stage plays when they have to move sets or help make things look like they're flying through the air or something like that. Because it makes them somewhat invisible. Not really, because it's usually a black backdrop and stuff like that, so they blend in. That doesn't work in just day-to-day life. It works for a stage that's set for it. It does not work in day-to-day life. And it doesn't even technically fully work on a stage play either. Like, you can still usually kind of tell, if you're really looking at least, depending on how well they do it.
I'm a little confused, though, how they forced James into the suit.
Who knows? Don't ask those questions.
Does that mean a little interesting?
But, yeah, so Jesse and Meowth dress in black costumes because now they're invisible. And they tie up James's mouth. They tie up James's mouth so that he can't talk and protest. And they drag him into and make him walk into the building to claim his inheritance. And Jesse talks for him, meaning because they're invisible, according to them, they can't be seen. But invisibility does not mean unhearable. Yeah. Which obviously Jesse must know to some extent because she is talking for James. So, they go in there and stuff, but then we hear the Team Rocket motto as the coffin lids pop up, and apparently James's mom and dad tricked him, or were trying to trick him. He actually, it wasn't working. I mean, he might have believed they were dead, but he still wasn't coming.
Well, he said it was just like them to pull a trick like that, so.
And they just were trying to get him to show up so that he can marry his fiancée. And then they drag him upstairs and tie him to a chair, and we meet his fiancée, who looks exactly like Jessie, except with a different hairstyle. Same hair color, different hairstyle, but her face is identical. And her name is Jezebel.
Jezebel.
No, they do not pronounce it Jezebel. They pronounce it Jezebel multiple times. Because Jezebel is a common, like, southern name, and she has, like, the southern accent and stuff, but they purposely called her Jezebel because she's just like Jessie. And Meowth even makes a comment on it, and of course Jessie takes offense to that. And that's when she has a whole argument with Meowth and talks to James as well to some extent. And even in the midst of this, she still talks for James at one point too. And it's like, Jessie, you're talking for James. That means everybody else can hear you. You're an idiot. And meanwhile, Ash and them are like peering around the door, and they're like, how is this costume working? And Ash makes a comment, which I thought was hilarious for Ash to say. It's like, those wouldn't work on me. But Ash, every other costume they have works on you, so why wouldn't it? At least he's smart enough not to believe they're invisible because they're wearing black costumes.
Well, I mean, everybody else is, later you'll learn, is smart enough too.
Yes, I know, but it's just hilarious because Ash is a little lacking in some self-awareness. So anyway, Jezebel wants to take them down to where their treasure is, but it turns out to be a trap. They're just in a room with a bunch of, like, exercise equipment and training equipment. And then that's when there's the big revelation that, yes, we can see Jesse and Meowth. We just kept playing along so that you would bring him down here so that we can tame him. And so
she gets a whip.
Yeah, she dresses as a tamer. I think we've met some Pokemon tamers in the game too. Like the trainers called tamers.
Rude.
And they have whips. Yeah. And yeah, so they're being all mean and stuff, and Ash, Jesse, Meowth, Misty, Brock, Pikachu all get kicked out of the mansion.
Yeah.
So then they're like trying to get in. Well, so Growly we see inside the quote-unquote doghouse, is trying to get out. And so they're going to try to open the door. And they're struggling a bit. And so then, or Ash is trying to open it. And so he's like, help me. And so everybody like holds on to each other to pull. Which makes sense. I mean, that would help. Except for Meowth and Pikachu. Meowth or Pikachu is holding onto the leg of a Team Rocket person, and the other one is holding on to. So if it's Meowth holding on the leg, Pikachu is holding on to Meowth, or it's the other way around. I don't remember which one's which. Doesn't really matter. They're pulling on a leg. That's not actually going to help anything, but it's funny. Anyway, they're pulling. They're still not quite getting there, but then Growlithe takes one more leap, and door opens, and Growlithe shows up and saves his James. Mm-hmm. So then Jessie Belle is also used. Oh, I think she brought him out before. That's how they got kicked out, because they got stun sport or whatever.
At some point, Jessie and Meowth leave, and James is still with Jessie Belle.
Yeah, well, that was same with Ash and them. They all got stun spored when Jessie Belle brought out.
But like Jessie leaves for the episode, essentially, just walks away.
Oh, I don't remember how that happened, but yes.
I don't know. Was she part of, or were they part of the polling and saving Growlithe?
I'm pretty sure Team Rocket was there, because Meowth was there, so Jessie and Meowth were there.
Well, maybe after that or something they left. Because they
Maybe they just didn't come back in.
They leave for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, we learned earlier, because they got stunned, which is how they were able to get kicked out, that Jessie Belle has a Vileplume, right? Vileplume? Yeah. And so then Vileplume and Growlithe get into a fight, which isn't going to be good for Vileplume anyway, because Growlithe's fire. And so they win, and James escapes. So he's gone for the episode eventually, too. And so then Jessie Belle ends up chasing Ash and them because she wants to know where to find James. And Ash even makes the comment here, we don't find James. He always finds us. Because that's true. They're not looking for Team Rocket most of the time. They're just trying to do their journey.
Yeah. And then Jessie and Meowth are walking away. Jessie's all sad, and she's like, guess James wants the rich life.
Oh, that's right. She ended up giving up on it probably when he was being rescued by Growlithe and stuff. And she's like, well, yeah, all right. And they wander off. But eventually James does ask Growlithe to stay behind. Uh-huh. And then he leaves as well. And then, yeah, then Jessie Belle's chasing.
There's a whole touching moment between Jessie and James.
Yeah. And so James must have said, all right, Growlithe, you stay here, and then probably joined up with Jessie and them.
Well, he was in the hot air balloon and scoops up Jessie, and then they fly away. And,
oh, yeah.
Jessie and James are flying away in the hot air balloon. Meowth is running along the ground.
Poor Meowth. And it was interesting, especially since we got some more James backstory, too, which was kind of cool. And it actually followed some of the canon the show already put into place with the Pokemon tech place. Uh-huh. So I was actually pretty impressed, because it's a silly cartoon. So they're not always going to be following things accurately, but I like it when they do. Mm-hmm. So then, we get to episode 49. So near, yet so far-fetched. This one bugs me a little bit, because there's a couple things in here. Well, there's a couple references to something that has not happened yet in this episode involving Jessie. So, the gang are in the woods, and while Brock and Ash are exploring, because they all talked about Farfetch'd for some reason, and then they're exploring. So
because there's known to be Farfetch'd in that little area,
particular forest,
but they're really rare.
Yeah, so then Misty dreams of catching a Farfetch'd, and she's not actually sleeping, but she was like thinking to herself, like, I would like to catch a Farfetch'd.
Oh, yeah.
So she's dreaming of it. It's a dream. It's a goal. Uh-huh. But then she finds one. A Farfetch'd shows up.
Well, Brock and Ash leave to go fill water bottles.
That's when she's like dreaming of catching a Farfetch'd, and then she finds one. And she chases it for a while because it runs away. And she's like, get back here. I want you so bad. But while she's chasing and he ducks behind a tree somewhere, she runs into some other kid. And like, they kind of both apologize to each other a little bit, and he picks up Misty's bag and gives it back to her and runs off. But by this point, Farfetch'd is gone, and she's disappointed. And so she goes back, and Brock and Ash are back at the same time, and they're like, oh, you were trying to get a Farfetch'd for yourself. She's like, no, it would have been for all of us, which is bullcrap, especially as we learn in later episodes. Well, I do not think that way.
Right there, she said, I'm going to catch a Farfetch'd to make Ash so jealous when she was going to catch it.
Yep. Yeah, this is just a bunch of hogwash. She's dishonest. But then she finds out that her bag is full of wrapped up rocks instead of Pokeballs. And so now she learns that every single one of her Pokemon that she's ever caught is gone. Uh-huh. And she's very upset and disappointed and sad and realizes she's been tricked. Meanwhile, Team Rocket comes across this kid, and he's offering to get rid of his Farfetch'd and maybe his Staryu and Starmie he has, because he just doesn't want to train Pokemon anymore, is what he says.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, this sounds great. And he takes him off to another area. But he's like, where there's a boat. And he's like, oh, I forgot something. So he leaves his bag behind and the Farfetch'd, and rushes off to go get, quote unquote, what he forgot. He didn't forget anything.
There's also a fueled boat there.
Yep, there's a fueled boat. They're like, sweet, this kid's an idiot. And they just grab the Farfetch'd and the bag of Pokemon and jump in the boat and go on. And not long after, a leak pops out because there was like a little cork in a hole. Yeah. And the boat sinks. And the Farfetch'd is just cruising in the water. And Jesse's and James's 3 Pokeballs, because they have 3 Pokemon, not including Meowth, apparently, are snatched up by the Farfetch'd. And they're like, well, we just have to use Staryu and Starmie then to get out of the water here and get us to safety. And then they open the bag, and it's rocks again. I think it was rocks again anyway. It certainly wasn't Pokemon.
No.
And they find out they've been tricked, and they're very upset to being outsmarted by the kid. And then, I think it's at the campsite of the kid. He has, like, Misty's Pokeballs, and then maybe the new Pokeballs he just got. But I don't think he's standing there at the time, but one of them pops open and releases...
They're in his tent. There's a bunch of Pokeballs in his tent.
Yeah.
And he's outside the tent.
He's outside of the tent? Okay. He wasn't near the Pokeballs anyway. And one of them pops out at Psyduck, because we all know and have seen that Psyduck just pops out whenever it kind of feels like it, apparently.
Yeah.
And
I knew who it was going to be right away.
And he rushes off, and escapes the camp. So then we cut to Ash and them, and they're talking to an officer, Jenny, who's got a little base just outside of the forest area or whatever on the road. And she's like, oh yeah, nope, I've heard about this happening a lot. 5th
victim this week.
Yeah, this week. So she goes off to help them find this kid, right? They're going to go look for him in the woods. And they run into Psyduck. Psyduck shows up. And I don't know why, but I thought this whole conversation was hilarious between Misty and Psyduck, because she asks like 50 questions, almost as if she's understanding the answers. And Psyduck is just, every time she's like, well, what about this? Psyduck? And Psyduck. Like, that's all he says. Just, Psyduck? Psyduck. With a confused expression, because he's always looking confused. But they seem to think that he can lead, so they follow him, but then they get to a fork in the road, and they're like, well, which way is it? And she's just so fed up with Psyduck, but he eventually decides which way they should go, and they go. But we find Team Rocket finds the kid first.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're right, I shouldn't have done this, you can have your Pokemon back. And they're like, that's not good enough. He's like, fine, you can have all these Pokemon in this bag, which includes your Pokemon. So they run off with that and fly off in their balloon. And then the other group finds the kid, and they're like, hey, give us our Pokemon back. And I'm a little fuzzy on my memory of exactly how this sequence goes, but I know that Farfetch'd decides to fight at some point in here.
I don't remember.
Okay. So Farfetch'd does, like, they get into, like, a little bit of a battle once, like, with Pikachu to get the things back. There's some point where Team Rocket finds out that they actually just have a bunch of Voltorbs in there, and they dump them out. They actually explode around where the kid and everybody is. But by the end of it, because the kid also explains that the Farfetch'd doesn't want to fight. This is before he fights. He's like, well, he doesn't do that. Like, he's just kind of, he doesn't have any abilities to do so, which wasn't true. The Farfetch'd wanted to fight, and he's like, oh, I didn't realize that you wanted to do these things. So now he can be a trainer. And so everything's forgiven. All the Pokeballs are returned to their owners, they say at the end. I don't know how they found all the ones that they belong to, but supposedly they were. Well, they have the transfer system, I suppose. Like, that's all settled. Like, they get their Pokemon back. The kid's like, I'm going to go be a trainer now with my Farfetch'd, because apparently he wants to actually do battles and stuff. So he learned his lesson. Everything's great. All's forgiven. And then we cut back to Team Rocket, and apparently they still had one more Voltorb left that pops up, and it explodes, and they blast off again. Now, here's the thing that's annoying about this episode, is that twice they reference Jessie's Pokeballs, because she has 2 Pokemon, and she says it once, I think, and I think the kid might say the name once, but supposedly she has a Lickitung. When did that happen? Not till later. It bugs me. I like continuity, because they make a big thing about it. So, because they even show the 3 Pokeballs and all that stuff.
Use Lickitung.
That's true. We never see him show up in the episode. So that's something. And I would argue, after watching the episode where she gets Lickitung, that I don't think there's anything in that episode that contradicts, like, that confuses the continuity if it just was aired beforehand. So we could have easily watched it before Farfetch'd. And I don't think it would have screwed anything up at all. Because this next episode we're going to talk about is Who Gets to Keep Togepi, episode 50. And Togepi doesn't actually show up in the other episode with Lickitung, I don't think. So it wouldn't have thrown anything off, and it makes sense for it to have aired earlier then.
Yeah.
I would think. But whatever. So episode 50.
Who gets to keep Togepi? The rightful owner of Togepi, Ash.
That's what we would like the result to be.
It's fair, but no.
Yeah. So while I'm annoyed by the last episode, you're annoyed by this episode. So we have Ash get an update to his Pokedex, which is important because he needs the updated information since we're going to be dealing with a Pokemon not from the Kanto region.
Well,
even though we got it in the Kanto region. Huh?
And the voice changes.
And the voice changes. So yeah, Ash and the gang can't agree who should get to keep whatever comes out of that egg because they're all talking about it. And because Ash found it.
I don't know if they argue about the egg that much. I expected them to when I was watching this. They argue later.
They do talk about it here, though. Right at the bat.
A little, but there's no arguing.
Well, okay, sorry. They disagree.
I thought for sure there was going to be argument. I'm like, oh, here comes the big argument. No.
Yeah. But Ash does say he found it, and Brock's like, well, I've been taking care of it. And Misty's hoping it's a water Pokemon for her to keep it. But yeah, Brock forced himself onto
and they were just talking about what might hatch and like.
Yeah, because he was talking about how he slept with it and keeps it like under his shirt and things like that or whatever to keep it warm.
Yeah, but you snatched it.
Yep.
Maybe if you had asked,
that would be different. It would be different. So anyway, Team Rocket also wants the egg, and they hatch a plan to steal it.
Boo.
See, this is why I like the show. They have these bad puns, and I make the same kinds of ones. So they pretend to be egg dealers, and then cause an accident with all their eggs and Ash's egg. So there's all these eggs spread around, so they can't find the right one.
Well, as soon as it happens, Meowth was right there as soon as the egg was dropped to catch it. Like, it didn't land on the ground. It was...
But the rest of them are looking all over the ground. And then Meowth is like, here's the egg, and then they all run away. But Ash and them are able to follow a trail of the fake eggs to confront them later. But meanwhile, Meowth is taking care of the egg because he wants to hatch it, but James wants to eat it.
Yeah.
At least James. I don't know if Jesse said anything, but James definitely a couple times wanted to eat it.
And offered scrambled eggs to...
Yeah, and Meowth is like, excuse me, we're going to hatch this thing. And so Meowth sleeps with the egg. Excuse me. Oh, that's good. Yeah, Meowth sleeps with it. He takes a hot bath with it. Things like that. So he feels he's the owner of the egg now. But he's a Pokemon, so he shouldn't own Pokemon. So yeah, Ash and them find them. They get into a confrontation like the little cabin that Team Rocket's hiding out in. There's a very fun little interaction where everybody's like the egg keeps getting tossed around and different people keep catching it. I always love these kinds of scenes in cartoons and stuff. It's just fun. But then
Ash gets the egg.
And then it starts to hatch, right? While they're still at the cabin.
And Brock comes over and
to watch it as well. And then
just sits next to him.
Yep. But then Misty forces herself right in between them because she wants to see too. And so when Togepi hatches, it looks at Misty first. Because
the egg like kind of flew up in the air, then she kind of like, see.
And then the Pokedex is like, Togepi, we don't really know much about this Pokemon. Although it gives us more information later, which is weird, but whatever.
Scientists are on the move.
So then there's still argument about it, right? And they're all debating who gets to keep Togepi. Ash is like, it's mine. Brock's like, it's mine. Misty wants it, but she literally did nothing for it. Meowth wants it because he claims he did more than all of them put together. And so they agree on a tournament.
And then Meowth disqualifies James and Jesse because they didn't do anything.
Right. He's like, I will immediately tell you that James and Jesse do not get to be a part of this tournament because they literally did nothing. Which means Misty should also not be part of the tournament.
Yeah.
But she is. Because you need 2 matches of 2. So we first have Meowth and Brock going against each other. And Meowth is like, wait, what? I don't have... Oh, I'm a Pokemon. So he goes back and forth to go back to like the trainer's spot to tell himself what to do, and then goes back to his spot as a Pokemon to do the things that he's being told to do. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. And of course, he's just a little normal type Pokemon with normal type scratch moves, which don't work very well against Onix. I know. Because I've used them. But there ends up being a couple of buckets of water nearby, so he uses those, which Brock claims is cheating, whatever, but it's how Ash won, and Brock gave him a badge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite literally how he won, but it was still the same kind of idea.
It's true.
And it was an accident with Ash, but still, he technically didn't win fair if you don't think this is fair. So Meowth wins. Then Ash and Misty get to battle, and they even mention how, hey, we haven't battled since Cerulean City. And once again, Ash doesn't use Pikachu. He just doesn't choose him this time. I think he chooses Bulbasaur right away.
Which, good choice.
I'm impressed because Ash is like using type advantage for like 1 in a millionth time, you know. Like last time he wanted to use Pikachu, but Pikachu didn't want to do it because he liked Misty, which might be why he didn't choose Pikachu this time. But Bulbasaur is a perfect pick, and he wins. Bulbasaur kicks butt. I don't even remember what Misty used. Was it Staryu or Starmie?
Wasn't it Psyduck?
Oh, was it Psyduck?
That is it,
Oh,
like
that's right, because she
Bulbasaur.
wanted to use something else, but Psyduck came out, so she just resolved herself to using Psyduck. She's like, fine. That still didn't matter. Still water type. Although technically, if he got a good enough headache, he probably could have beaten Bulbasaur, because Bulbasaur is grass and poison.
You said that. That's why I remember it was Psyduck.
Ah.
You're like, that's actually her best choice.
Well, I think Staryu and Starmie might have psychic moves, too.
You said that too after Psyduck.
Well, I'm saying it now for the episode, so people can hear it. Jeez. So, so then it's going to be Ash versus Meowth. This is where Ash uses Pikachu, and the battle does not last long.
Yeah.
And Meowth has a joke about being shocked at his defeat after he gets shocked. So Ash wins. Togepi is his. And so he's like, come here,
like
Togepi.
It's rightfully supposed to be.
Right. And he shouldn't even have to fight this tournament. But in the end, it doesn't matter anyway. Because he's like, come here, Togepi. And Togepi's like, no. And runs over to Misty. Because it likes Misty. And then they use the Pokedex again. And the Pokedex says, oh, Togepi imprints on the first person it sees and thinks of it as its mother. So Togepi is Misty's. And Misty talks about taking care of it and not letting anything bad happen to it. But really, that ends up being Pikachu's job.
Pikachu catches the egg at one point, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Because you mentioned that.
Yeah, Pikachu ends up doing a lot for this Togepi in some episodes. So.
Well, even in that episode, Misty's like, you're going to help me watch over Togepi, aren't you, Pikachu?
More than you are, Misty. So then we have Bulbasaur's Mysterious Garden. This one starts off really fun because we see another battle with Ash and some random trainer in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
He's using a Rhyhorn. Ash is using Bulbasaur again, which is again a good matchup because Rhyhorn, I believe, has ground type. So that's good to see that Ash is using good typing again. But apparently the Rhyhorn is a high level, they mentioned, because it's doing really good in the battle. Like, this is actually a really cool battle. Like, I like the interactions here. And Bulbasaur gets his head hurt. It gets a big old red bump on his head. But he does win. And then his bulb starts glowing, and so they're like panicking, and so they take him to a Poke Center and give it to the Nurse Joy there. And the Poke Center here looks really cool because it's like a big old log cabin in the middle of this like cool woods. And she runs some tests and stuff. It's like just like I thought. He's getting ready to evolve. That's all. And they put a Band-Aid on his bump, which is important because this helps us to keep an eye on which one's Ash's Bulbasaur, because there's a lot of Bulbasaur in this episode.
Uh-huh.
So then we hear about like the Bulbasaurs when they evolve. There's this whole mysterious garden nobody can ever find. And I think at night a bunch of Bulbasaur snatch Bulbasaur out of his bed, right? And carry him off. Is that what happened? Or does he leave on his own?
Bulbasaur walks out there, is looking kind of at the city. Pikachu's out there too. Then
The
the
city?
They're looking at the woods. Something.
Okay.
They're looking over something because
Yep.
they're on this little cliff. Then, yes, the other Bulbasaur snatch that Bulbasaur. Then Pikachu goes back to the Ash and Go to tell them.
Oh, that's right. And so they try to go follow. But meanwhile, when the Bulbasaur are carrying Ash's Bulbasaur, Team Rocket runs across them. And they're like, hey, Bulbasaur, let's catch all these Bulbasaur. Then they get whipped really quick and say, Team Rocket's blasting off again. And you were like, well, that was a short time for Team Rocket. It's not. They come back. Because this is only the first time they blast off in this episode. So then Ash and them are following, trying to find Bulbasaur because Pikachu's message or whatever. And as they're going deeper into the woods, eventually like some like growth happens behind them, a wall of like roots and stuff, closing them in to this mysterious garden, which they're not supposed to be in because humans are not supposed to be there or something. And they see all those Bulbasaur, including Ash's, and then Venusaur comes out. Somewhere in this part of it, I don't remember exactly where, Team Rocket land with their heads in the dirt, and they pop out, and they are also in this mysterious garden place. And they see all the Bulbasaur and like, well, we want to catch these things, obviously.
Yeah.
So then they're all the Bulbasaur are getting ready to evolve into Ivysaur, and Venusaur is there to oversee it. This is some mystical event, and the Ivysaur evolve. Bulbasaur does not. Ash's Bulbasaur does not, because he doesn't want to. And this does not make Venusaur very happy. And so Venusaur and I think the other Ivysaur are being mean to him. So Ash gets in there to stop them, of course. He's like, hey. And this is, one of those situations that happens in this cartoon a lot, that it's about to escalate quite a bit. But just as things are about to escalate, like it often does in the cartoon, Team Rocket shows up. And they're in their balloon with a big old vacuum to vacuum up all the Ivysaur.
Wait, doesn't it go the other way? Leaf blower?
You're right. So they're vacuuming them up, I don't remember what Venusaur does in this situation. Does he get vacuumed up too somehow?
I don't remember.
Because he doesn't save the day.
No, he doesn't.
And I don't know why he wouldn't. Unless he was taken out somehow.
Did they have a net? They always have nets.
They might have. I really don't remember. Nonetheless, Bulbasaur is the one that rescues everybody.
Yeah.
He does Razor Leaf, he pops their balloon, things like that. They blast off again. They lose. All the Ivysaur like kind of float down. So unlike the Pikachu one, where they get caught in like nets as a trampoline kind of thing, they just float down because they got the fancy leaves, I guess. I don't know. And there's a whole talk about how it's not sure, like nobody's ever decided for sure if like Bulbasaur is actually a plant or an animal or something like that.
Yeah.
Why not both? So then, because Bulbasaur saved the day, Venusaur and the Ivysaur are like, all right, you're fine. And they let Bulbasaur and Ash and co leave, and that's kind of how that goes. Mm-hmm. And they talk about how Bulbasaur can evolve whenever he ends up deciding he's ready. Which, spoilers, from what I understand from people who've watched the show, is never. He's never ready. He never evolves. So then, we have episode 52, our final episode for this week. Princess versus Princess. Now, this one is weird to me for a couple of reasons. Not the episode itself. The episode's fine. But it's weird in its placement because according to like some official lists and stuff, this is where it lands. Now, this is where Jessie gets Lickitung.
So it could just be a little weird.
It probably should be located before the Farfetch'd episode because Farfetch'd happens before Togepi, and we don't see Togepi, I don't think, in Princess versus Princess. Like, Misty doesn't use it. She's not carrying him like she usually is. I'm pretty sure I don't see Togepi in this episode. I was trying to watch for it, but I was also distracted just by watching the episode, so who knows. And, like, maybe they made a comment somewhere, but not that I can recall. So, like, it's perfectly fine to place this episode, I believe, before Farfetch'd. And so it should be there. What's weird to me is that with Pokemon TV, we've talked about this before, they split the Indigo League for whatever reason, so that it ends with one episode, and then it picks up, I think, with Princess versus Princess in quote-unquote Season 2, which is the Orange Islands, which half of the Season 2 is still actually the Indigo League, on Pokemon TV, for whatever reason. And so
Why
this
did they do that? I've never heard of it.
So this episode is actually after some other episodes in that order. So its placement on the list that I looked at is here, but on the official Pokemon TV, it's later, and it really should be earlier, in my opinion. Yep. So it's very weird in its placement. I don't understand it, but we're covering it now. So what happens is they go to a town, they learn about this Princess Festival thing, where all the women get, like, discounts and free food and things like that.
And boys have to listen to them.
And the boys have to listen. And so, of course, Ash and Brock are bored out of their minds going shopping everywhere. James is kind of bored out of his mind going shopping everywhere. And Jessie bought all kinds of stuff with the Team Rocket credit card, apparently. And a lot of the stuff she bought, she claims is for the boss. Now, she's using the Team Rocket credit card. Where does the money for the Team Rocket credit card most likely come from? Probably the one who runs Team Rocket. So, yes, boss, I'm spending your money to buy you things. I can do that myself. So, while she's talking about this, though, all of a sudden her stuff starts getting eaten up because a Lickitung shows up and just licks open the packages and then gobbles up whatever's inside of them. Some of it was food. Some of it was not.
Some of it he spit back out.
Yeah, because it was clothes. Didn't like it.
He ate some of the clothes. I didn't see all of them come out.
Maybe different fabrics are actually tasty.
Ooh, I should go try the fabric store.
Well, if you ask your little brother, he seems to like eating shirts.
My youngest one? Oh.
Anyway, Jessie's very upset with this, and so she sends Arbok to go beat up the Lickitung, and the Lickitung licks Arbok, which defeats Arbok, because he's like, ew, gross. So still angry, she throws just another Pokeball, because she has no other Pokemon to throw, and it captures it, and he stays in the Pokeball. So she kind of accidentally, in her rage, captured a Lickitung. So now she has her Lickitung. Yay! After that, we see... I think it's after this that we see Misty and Jessie at the same store trying to get the same thing, and they're angry about it. And so then they're going to challenge each other to a Pokemon battle, but then there's an announcement that the Pokemon... Oh, some bigger, meaner lady grabs the fabric, and they don't question that. They're like, well, you can have it. But they still want to have their Pokemon battle. But then there's an announcement that the Pokemon tournament for the ladies is about to start.
Well, no, they didn't want to... They, like, were arguing over it, so they were going to do that, and then she walks by. And then it seemed fine, and then the thing came over the PA, and then they're like, settle our fight over this. I'm like, because I was like, you guys, why?
Well, because they had challenged and they accepted, so they were still going to battle. And we're like, well, this is where we'll do our battle then. And conveniently enough, in this tournament, they don't face each other until they both get to the top, right? Which is not necessarily realistically, the odds aren't in their favor for that happening, but it doesn't matter. But we find out the rewards are some polka doll set and...
That's really rare that you can't like it.
Right, super rare. And some, like, you get a picture or something with this famous movie star guy who doesn't say much during his... Because he's part of the announcement stuff. He just kind of says, yeah, cool, things like that. It's whatever. So, Misty really wants to join it, and the boys are like, well, you just want that picture or whatever with the guy. And she's like, no, I want my own polka doll set because I always got hand-me-downs from my 3 older sisters and usually broken and stuff like that. I want my own. And Jessie wants one because she never got to have anything nice or whatever because we've learned in Snow Way Out they must have been poor or something.
Yeah.
So she really, it's very important to her too.
Split it. Split the polka doll set. If they were nice to each other, they'd split it.
Yeah, if they were nice to each other. But, Team Rocket is always trying to steal things anyway. So they're going to go into this Pokemon tournament. Misty begs to use Ash and Brock's Pokemon, so she has some versatility instead of just water Pokemon. Which, I mean, she's always believed in the option of, like, switching Pokemon out because she's offered Ash her Pokemon before to help out because they would have helped out. But he was always like, no, I use my own Pokemon. So anyway, she's going to use some of their Pokemon. So she gets like Bulbasaur and Vulpix.
Pikachu.
And Pikachu. Because she certainly isn't using Charizard for fire type.
That's true.
And that's why Vulpix.
And then she's using one of her own water type.
Yeah. So she's plowing through competition. Jessie's also doing really good through her competition with her Arbok.
Because she has Arbok, Weezing.
Just Arbok and Weezing is all that's established at that point.
Because he even comments on how, like...
And it's later that that's talked about.
No, how she's not going to have any chance with just 2 Pokemon. And then she gets a 3rd Pokemon.
It's later.
Then at the top, she gets her 4th.
No. Both of those happen at the top.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
They do not.
Nope. So she's going to use Weezing and Arbok. And she's plowing through her competition, even though she really strictly only has, like, poison type.
No, she is also a normal type.
Nope. So... Eventually, it's Misty versus Jessie. And Misty's kicking butt with, like, Bulbasaur or something, I think. Right?
Probably.
Yeah, I think she's just using Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur's kicking butt. So, Arbok goes down. Then Weezing goes down. And she's like, I don't have any more Pokemon. And then she's like, oh, well, I do. And she looks over at Meowth, and Meowth is just staring at her. And they stare at each other for a long time. And he's like, oh, I'm a Pokemon. So she uses Meowth. And then Meowth loses. And she's like, now I'm out of Pokemon completely. And then James is like, no, that's not true. You have one more Pokemon. My Lickitung. So she brings out Lickitung. That was disgusting. Anyway, Lickitung takes out Bulbasaur with a lick. So then she's like, well, Pikachu, lick, Vulpix, lick. And then she's going to use like Staryu, Starmie or something like that, like she usually tries to. But Psyduck comes out.
Yep.
As always. And she's like, Psyduck. I like how I just said she was like Psyduck, but when I said Psyduck, I said it like Psyduck. So, of course, he gets licked too, but he's like, Psy? Like, he's just confused by the lick. Like, what are you doing to me? And then I think Ash or something reminds Misty that, remember what happens when he gets a headache, right? And she's like, oh yeah, because his headache was getting worse from being licked constantly. And so then Psyduck uses confusion, and it causes Lickitung's tongue to be confused because he doesn't know what he's doing with it because he's confused, and he gets pushed back, I think, with psychic abilities, and into Team Rocket. They all go blasting off, and Psyduck wins the battle. And then so the Misty gets her set, and she sends it off to her sisters to rub it in their faces, because she's petty that way. And then we catch up with like Team Rocket, who all landed way outside of like the city, or maybe in like actually looked more like a park in the city. I don't know. Anyway, they get up, and Jessie's all super sad, and James is like, well, since you couldn't have that polka doll set, we'll be your polka doll set. And so they're all dressed up like the polka doll set, and like, so Weezing, Arbok, Jessie herself somehow, James, Meowth, like they're all like alive, like life-sized polka doll set. It was weird, but
it was touching.
He was trying to be nice to his partner, so. And that's that. That's where we end up with those episodes. Next week, we will be going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll be going through 7 more anime episodes. And they'll be according to the list I was looking at, episodes 53 through 59. And this will take us to the Cinnabar Gym. So we'll have the perfect hero, the case of the canine caper, Pokemon paparazzi, the ultimate test, the breeding center secret, riddle me this, and volcanic panic. And then we will also be covering one chapter of the manga, which is chapter 26 from volume 2, Holy Moltres. So yeah, that's what we'll be covering next week. So if you want to tag along with us and keep up with where we're at, that's what we're doing. And so that just leaves our Pokemon card segment. Alright, so I am opening up Sword and Shield Rebel Clash with looks like Inteleon is on the front of my package. So the water starter.
I know what Inteleon is. I'm doing Sword and Shield Brilliant Stars with the normal or grass type.
It looks like Whimsicott or something.
Something.
Anyway, it's time for the sniff. Smells so good. Alright. You want to start or should I start?
I'll start. Okay. Cherubi. Grass type. The deeper a cherubi's red, the more nutrients it has stockpiled in its body, and the sweeter and tastier its small ball. They eat Pokemon?
We've talked about this before.
Sock. Fighting type.
Oh, yep. SAWK. Yep.
If you see a sock training in the mountains, in its single-minded pursuit of strength, it's best to quietly pass by. Gorefish, water type. No matter how dirty the water in the river, it will adapt and thrive. It has a strong will to survive. Golett, fighting. They were sculpted from clay in ancient times. No one knows why, but some of them are driven to continually line up boulders.
Interesting. Strange behavior.
Chimcho.
Chimecho?
Chimecho.
This is a chime, like a bell, and
Psychic.
echo.
Emitting ultrasonic cries, it floats on winds to travel great distances. Oh, my shiny thingy is an Ultra Ball.
Ooh.
An item. Trainer card item. You can use this card only if you discard 2 other cards from your hand, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. And my rare is Heatran, metal type.
Heatran or Heatran? Yeah, it has an A, not an O.
Well, in the movie, I heard them pronounce it that way, so.
Oh, I could be wrong.
When he was the main character.
Okay. Like I said, I could be wrong. I don't know how to pronounce half these things. I still say Arceus and Arceus, so.
Bolding blood, like magma, circulates through its body. It makes its dwelling place in volcanic area. Got a grass energy. Vibra evolves from Trapinch. Fighting type. The ultrasonic waves it generates by rubbing its 2 wings together cause severe headaches. A normal Ultra Ball. Crawdaunt evolves from Crawfish.
Corfish. Which you already had.
Yeah, but I've got Crawdaunt.
Nice.
A rough customer that wildly flails its giant claws. It is said to be extremely hard to raise.
Alright. I have Squovit. Found throughout the Galar region, this Pokemon becomes uneasy if its cheeks are ever completely empty of berries. You has a picture with a bunch of berries in its little stump, secure little thing. Impidimp. Through its nose, it sucks in the emanations produced by people and Pokemon when they feel annoyed. It thrives off this negative energy, which means it'll purposely annoy you.
Great.
It's a dark type, sorry. The other one was normal type. We have Bunnelby, normal type. It excels at digging holes. Using its ears, it can dig a nest 33 feet deep in one night. Yeah, the ears are what dig.
Okay, so you've got people using their noses and ears over there.
Using all the senses. Alright, Phantump, grass. After a lost child perished in the forest, their spirit possesses a tree stump, causing the spirit's rebirth as this Pokemon. That's how you get Phantumps.
That's sad.
Dreepy, psychic. After being reborn as a ghost Pokemon, Dreepy wanders the area it used to inhabit back when it was alive in prehistoric eras. Ooh. This is my little foily card, shiny card, or whatever. Palosand evolves from Sandygast, psychic. Once it has whipped up a sandstorm to halt its opponents in their tracks, this terrifying Pokemon snatches away their vitality.
That's kind of cool.
Aegislash evolves from Doublade. Ability, Big Shield. All of your Pokemon take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. You can't apply more than one Big Shield ability at a time. It's a Steel-type Pokemon. In this defensive stance, Aegislash uses its steel body and a force field of spectral power to reduce the damage of any attack. I have Psychic Energy. I have a Scutank, Dark. In its belly, it reserves stinky fluid that it shoots from its tail during battle. As this Pokemon's diet varies, so does the stench of its fluid. Morpeko, Electric. As it eats the seeds stored up in its pocket-like pouches, this Pokemon is not just satisfying its constant hunger, it's also generating electricity. Capacious Bucket. Item. Search your deck for up to 2 water energy cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck.
I could put that in my deck.
Yeah, you do like your water stuff. And that's it. That's
Either
what
two
I
of
got.
my decks.
All right. So, thank you again all for listening. You can listen to us on Spotify and Amazon and Apple, and we're also on YouTube at the Hunterfield Institute area. That's our name on YouTube. And if you want to get a hold of us, comment, leave a message or whatever, you can, comment at any one of those places and leave reviews or whatever, but you can also reach us at hunterfieldmanor@gmail.com. We're also working on some other projects that we'll be adding in here and coming up in the future, so stay tuned for some of that as well. Otherwise, thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you on the next route. Bye.